Hello, Jacob. Nice to meet you in cyberspace. This will be some video feedback for Milestone 1 and for week 3 in general. And I'll begin with looking at the wireframes from last week's peer review. And then I'll end with the journal statement about your audience and your client. Oh, in general, I follow the rubric for each of these. So if you want, you can open up the rubric and go through each of those categories. I try to address each one. Jacob, your wireframes are appropriately skeletal, or just what is required. Gives me a very clear idea of some possible arrangements for you. Not to be dull, but I think the ones where the navigation is at the top, along with the logo, probably will be the most successful. You can put the navigation down the side of a page. Just design it in a way so that it appears, on the first screen. It's hard to anticipate what your pages will be viewed on. So moving forward, you might consider taking a look at your pages on your cell phone or also on a tablet or a pad if you have one. Now that you're being able to upload things to the web, try taking a look at them in all kinds of browsers and platforms. Also, I like those page designs or wireframes where presumably there's going to be a large photograph. See what you can do to get your photograph to bleed off the edges. Sometimes, that's more elegant and simpler solution than putting everything in a box. When you put things in boxes, you have to deal with these white interstices, which can be awkward sometimes and distracting. So wherever possible, big imagery. This is also tied to your journal statement. What do you want to project in your restaurant? What does your client want to project? Is it an expensive, tony place that the environment or the ambiance is important? Then perhaps images of the interior or the exterior. Is it a family place where menu options are important? Then maybe that's a more appropriate place for this kind of web page design where there are many images. Jacob, I'm moving backwards as you can see here. What I've done is I've opened up, I've opened up your web page mounted on GeoCities. I've opened it up in Safari for the Macintosh. In Safari and just about every other browser, there is a feature where you can view the page source, which means the page code. So I've done that. I've gone to show page source, and it comes up, here's your code. Here's the live preview of it. This little dialog box is reserved for if I had access to your files, or if I was the owner of this server or place on it, I would be able to see more about my file management structure. I would see folders and so forth. But you have, this is certainly adequate for the rubric, and you have met the critical elements, which were styling ahead using the corporate color. You've done that. And the other thing, of course, was uploading it, and you've done that as well. A few things I wanted to point out. You will see a script showing up in your code if you view it live like I am. That is something that GeoCities dynamically places on your page. Here's something else that GeoCities places on your page. You can get rid of them. I think once you have your own code in place, I think they're pretty much placeholders. I'm not sure. But anyway, don't be alarmed if you see them. You can just ignore them as well. There's lots of good meta comments here. Looking forward to week 6 and 7, we'll learn how to embed keywords so that you optimize search engines, and that's something else that will appear in the head as a comment, invisible to the viewer. So good job on this, and also just it gives me a sense that you're organizing things by week. So in the milestone 3.2, I will note that. I'm just curious to see what I get when I try to go to your root directory. Okay, I see the default page that GeoCities places there. If I go back And let's see, do you have a week 4? Just curious. No, not yet. But good going. I like the way you're thinking. Jacob, do feel free to resubmit if you feel like you can improve this. But the visual sitemap is great. Now, it's a little nested. You might, this is an ideal solution given lots of time. Just consider making it a little shallower and maybe having a home page and maybe 4 or 5 child pages. When you start to add, a menu that is as varied as this, it's going to become difficult to do. But this is, if circumstances and time allows you to do it, I'm glad that you're forward thinking. What I'm missing here is the HTML sitemap that will become the basis of your navigation. I would expect that to look like, HTML, and each of these child pages would have a URL or a web address. And that's pretty much it. That becomes an unordered list that will then become your navigation. Here I see you have what looks like a screenshot of your file management. Let me zoom in there. And I'm thinking that this is on your C drive. It's in a folder marked SNHU by class. So what you want to do is make sure that your file management is repeated on the server. That is, if you have a folder containing images, which it seems like you do, that there is a folder also on the server named images, named the same way with the same contents. But it looks like you understand the file management structures well. Good job. Jacob, you've addressed each of the rubric prompts or the discussion prompts briefly, but I think accurately. The only thing I'm looking for perhaps here, and I realize that maybe because of your lack of experience, also are some alternatives for research. And just wanted to point out things like Nielsen, the U.S. Census, of course, has an abundance of free information and data, as well as Google Analytics. So think about that, moving forward as you are searching out alternatives to browser shots or FTP clients like CyberDuck. Think about the array of marketing tools out there. And you might want to try to find some that come from your point of view. For example, maybe Google online marketing tools for, I don't want to say idiots, but for less experienced people. That's probably what I would, Google if I didn't know much about a topic. Good job. I look forward to seeing how your website shapes up.